Hello everyone, we are back. I'm just getting Zoom started and you'll find the Zoom link on the events page. So if you want to join me on Zoom for the book study, that would be awesome. And I'm just going to post the link for anyone who is interested. Here we go. Awesome. Hi Lakshmi, hi Andrew, Jennifer, good to see you guys. Hi. Oops, what did I do? Oh, that's not what I wanted to do. Okay. Awesome. All right, so people still joining. Guys, if you want to join on Zoom, you should find the link under the events tab. In our book study today, we are going to continue with this book, Abraham-Hicks, The Vortex. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful book. I learned so much about relationships with myself and relationships with other people through this book. It's a brilliant book. I think it's, in fact, as far as I'm concerned, it's one of their best works. Amazing book. Learned so much from it. Okay, so last time we stopped at page 10, and it's okay because that was, up to that point, was just laying the context for relationships. And today we are actually going to start getting into the meat of it. So I'm really excited because of it. All right, here we go. Give me just 1 second. Awesome. Okay. So we're going to resume at page 10. At the heading, it's, page 11. The heading is Gaining a Clear View by Stepping Back. So just step back, because when we step back, we are able to see more of the connections. It's like, you know how we say, looking at the forest as opposed to looking at the trees. It's kind of like you need to take a step back and see the complete picture. And so that's where Abraham is starting. They say under this heading, Gaining a Clear View by Stepping Back, they say, while we are eager to rendezvous with you right where you are in order to help you improve every relationship that is currently active in your experience, it will be of value for you to first relax and walk with us down the path of the usual human interactions. And that is the key. Usual human interactions does not mean your personal interactions, but they're just talking about what most people encounter. And as you go through this, you will start seeing patterns, either in your own life, or you'll think of friends who had these kinds of things going on in their life. And then that's how we learn, because we learn from not only our own life, but from other people's lives as well, right? We learn a lot of things we learn from observation. And so they're saying, before your birth into this physical body, you knew that you were source. You absolutely had that knowing. And so, interesting point that Abraham explains is, you didn't have a relationship with source at that point in time because you were source. You have a relationship with something when you see yourself as being separate from it. But if you are it, then you don't need to have a relationship with it. That's what they're saying in this paragraph. Before your birth into this physical body is the heading. And then the first paragraph ends with the line, You experience no discernible separation and therefore no discernible relationship between you and Source. You were Source. But then the moment of your birth is the next heading. And under that heading, they're saying, in the moment of your birth, a part of the consciousness that is you focused itself into your physical body, and your first relationship began, the relationship between the physical you and the non-physical you. Now, I have a way of explaining this on my beautiful whiteboard that I remembered to clean. All right. Bear with me, guys. I really do want to show you this because, oh, here's Chris. Because it will help you, I hope. It did help me when I saw things this way. It helped me. So here we are. We are part of this ocean that is Source. And then a thread from this ocean goes into the physical world in the form of the baby that is in the womb. And then what happens is the time of birth. So during gestation, there is no separation. During gestation, there is no separation. Then comes the time of birth. And when the time of birth comes, now what happens is this strand that was coming into physical form, this strand divides. So here, instead of being one complete strand, it divides. And I'm just going to maybe see if I can find a different color pen. 1 second. It's behind here. Okay, got it. So now what happens is that this one thread now becomes 2 threads. But they are not separated. They are attached, but they are 2 threads. So this one thread is the conscious you, and the blue thread remains the non-physical you, or the soul part of you, or the inner being part of you. And then there's this conscious thread that is focused into your physical body. So there become 2 threads. Now, when that happens, you start experiencing the world through this thread, the red thread. And now another milestone is your experiencing of contrast. Even as a baby, you're experiencing contrast. You have hunger, you have bodily functions going on, and those create contrast. The vibration of the people around you creates contrast. So then what happens is that this blue thread, which is the non-physical part of us, it remains what it was originally. But through our experience of contrast and giving birth to our preferences, the red thread no longer stays attached. It deviates. It deviates. It doesn't have to deviate, but it deviates. And the distance from here to here, this distance is your emotional scale. The closer you are to the blue thread, the more aligned you are. Literally aligned, lined up completely. So this distance, the more contrast you feel, the further you go. And this distance is your emotional scale. So our job is always to bring this back here. The goal in life is to bring this back here as much as possible. This is what, when Abraham says, close the gap, this is the gap. Close the gap. Close the gap. That is what our physical experience is all about is just close the gap. And how are you going to close the gap? You close the gap by looking at things the way this part of you is looking at them. The difference comes from your not being able to see things the way the source part of you, the soul part of you, the universe part of you is seeing them, the way the God part of you is seeing them. Sorry, somebody came and knocked the door and I did not notice. Sorry. Here we go. Tess. Sorry, dear, I didn't see you waiting there. My apologies. I was too involved in drawing this beautiful diagram. Isn't it a beautiful diagram? Come on, guys. Come on. Yes, it's a beautiful diagram. It dawned upon me one day that this was the emotional scale. This is how it works. It was a huge aha moment. So I love this diagram. I think it's brilliant. I think it's brilliant. Yes. So it just makes sense to me when I draw it like this. It just makes sense to me that that's all I have to do. This is the gap. And the gap comes from a difference in perspective. And so this whole book, The Vortex, is about the contrast that other people create in our lives. Contrast that other people create in our lives and how to close that gap. And these guys just showed up. Hang on one second. Mercedes and Tess. I wonder if they missed this. So I'm just going to go over it really quickly. All right. Mercedes, did you see this have you seen this? No. Okay. I'm just going to explain it very quickly. Mercedes, look here. So source, we are source. Then the baby takes form in the womb, gestation period. Then birth happens. When birth happens, this thread that's coming from the universe gets divided into two threads, the red and the blue. This is the consciousness. This is the non-physical part of us. And now contrast starts happening in our life. Because of contrast, the red thread, which is the conscious part of us, deviates from the non-physical part of us. And this gap in here, this is the emotional scale. This gap is the emotional scale. It is the distance to which we have drifted from the perspective of our inner being because of contrast in the world. And I found it really interesting that Abraham says here, you slept. Oh, it's further ahead. But Abraham said that because babies are dealing with contrast, that is why they sleep so much. They sleep so much because when they sleep, they get connected. The blue and the red line becomes one. And this is why even if you listen to a lot of Abraham, which I certainly have always listened to a lot of Abraham, they have spoken about how if you go down the emotional scale, sleep helps. Sleep is the natural healer. Because when you sleep, you connect more with source. And that's why you'll notice that when we are sick, any kind of sickness, even if it's just a flu, you want to sleep. It's your body naturally asks for sleep because it needs that sleep in order to heal itself. And people who are in depression sleep a lot. Why? Because it's a relief, right? You cut out contrast when you're sleeping. And so that's why sleep is really, really good. It's a good thing. I remember, I'm going to tell you a funny story about my parents. So if my parents fought, they would fight, and then my father would go into the formal drawing room, close the door, and go to sleep on the couch. And it used to drive my mother crazy. How can you sleep when we just had a fight? And she would just not understand it. But he would go to sleep and then he would wake up and come out of the room and he would put his arms around her, and it was like they never fought. he would have totally let go. Because he slept, he completely let go everything that happened. And she just could not understand it. And as a child, I used to think it was very amusing, but I didn't really start understanding it until I understood Abraham's work. So sleep is a very good thing. It helps you go up the emotional scale automatically, and when you go up the emotional scale, then your body also has the ability, your emotions as well as your body have the ability to heal themselves, right? And so that is why it's a very good thing. And this is the importance of sleep is talked about in so many ways. People say you must get the right amount of sleep, but here's the thing, there's no right amount of sleep. The amount of sleep you need depends on the amount of resistance you've collected along your path during your day, right? And that's why you can't, it's not one size fits all. It's not, oh, you know, there's this thing that we have largely accepted as being true, that everybody should get 8 hours of sleep, but it's not true. And I know it to be not true because I know people who function on way less sleep. Right? Elon Musk, for one, says he only needs 4 or 5 hours of sleep. I have a friend who only sleeps 4 or 5 hours. And they have amazing energy and productive lives. Sleep is not the criteria, but you need sleep in order to get rid of resistance. So therefore, get the sleep that your body needs in order to recover. Because if you give your body the sleep that it needs, it will not retain resistance inside. Retention of resistance in your physical body is what leads to illness. That is what leads to lack of energy. So sleep it off. It's the easiest thing to do. Right? All right, getting back. So we kind of went on a tangent, but let's come back to the book. So I was actually basically with that diagram, I was explaining to you the next heading. Sorry, you have a question, Mercedes? Go ahead.
What page are you
on? I'm on page 12. Let me just increase the volume there. I hardly heard you that time. There we go. Okay, so then under that heading, the moment of your birth, that's what we were talking about with the diagram. In the moment of your birth, a part of the consciousness, that is you, focused itself into the physical body, and your first relationship began. The relationship between the physical you and the non-physical you. That is your first relationship. We don't see it that way, do we? We see our first relationship as the relationship of the baby with the mother. That's how we see the first relationship of a baby. But it's not. It's the first relationship that you have is your relationship with you. So flawed premise number 1, or negative belief number 1. I am either physical or non-physical, either dead or alive. Not true. You are always non-physical as well as physical. Many people who do not understand that they existed before their physical birth, many people believe that if they existed in the non-physical before their birth, the non-physical part of them ceased to be once they were born into this body. I am on page 13, the words in the italics. In other words, I am either non-physical or physical, either dead or alive. Not true. Because that blue thread stays with us. That blue thread and the red thread are part of us throughout life. And every time we experience contrast, it kicks the red thread out from the blue thread. Contrast is responsible for kicking us out. Otherwise, we would maintain our alignment. Let me show you the diagram. Okay, so contrast, when contrast happens, it kicks out the red thread. And that's why Abraham says, all right, so Abraham says that you would automatically close the gap if there was no difference of opinion between you and you. So, you know, when they say that you are, at your core, you are love, So this blue thread is love, because this blue thread is source. And that's what it means to see things through the eyes of source. The other analogy that makes sense with this diagram is when Abraham says that the cork, when you hold it under the water, will automatically rise when you let it go, when you let the stress go, when you let the pressure go. Well, this is like pressure. Pressure is what creates the deviation. And it's like almost like pulling a string. So this emotional scale, you could see it, you could visualize it as being a string, and a spring, sorry. And as soon as you let the spring go, it's going to come back here, right? There's tension. So when you pull a string, keep calling it a string. When you pull a spring, there's tension in it, right? There's tension in the spring. That's the tension that we feel when we deviate. That's worry, that's anxiety. To the extent that you pull the spring out, to that extent there's tension. And when you let the spring go, it's going to flip back to its mean, to its central position. And the central position is alignment. So literally, when you let the tension go, you let the spring go, then the threads become aligned. So we are always searching for alignment. We are always searching for getting both of these threads to line up again. We are always searching. This is alignment. Alignment is feeling the contrast, letting go of the spring, and coming back to alignment. Okay? That's really all there is to it. So when you're feeling any kind of anxiety or tension or worry inside you, you are not looking at things the way source is looking at them. You are not looking at things the way your inner being is looking at things. Because if you were, then you wouldn't feel any tension. You'd be lined up. The red and the blue would be together. Right? That's all. That's all the work we do, is to come back to that point of alignment. All of it is because of that. And just finding different ways of having it make sense to us so that we can get our alignment back. All right, so Abraham is making a couple of really important points on page 13. There are 4 important points, and they are about our relationship with our inner being. Abraham is saying the emotions that you feel, your emotion guidance system, are because of the relationship between these 2 vibrational parts of you, which we've explained with the diagram, right? The emotional scale is in between. As you reach for new thoughts and expansion out here on the leading edge, you have the benefit of the stable knowledge of your non-physical counterpart, because here's the thing. The interesting thing is you are always connected. You never lose this connection. You just swing away from it, but you never lose the connection. So you can always come back. You can always come back, and it takes no time at all. All it needs is a change of perspective, and you can come back. Then number 3, it says, as you reach for new thoughts and expansion out here on the leading edge of life, non-physical part of you has the benefit of the expansion that you carve out of your physical experience. All right, it took me the longest time to figure this one out, because I kept thinking, how is the non-physical expanding because of my contrast? Like Abraham says, I've heard them say this, whether you think negative thoughts or you think positive thoughts, either way, the universe is expanding. To the universe, it doesn't matter whether you think negative thoughts or positive thoughts, because the growth of the universe is taking place either way. And for the life of me, I could not understand what the hell is Abraham talking about. Like, how is the expansion of the universe taking place when I'm unhappy? You know, like, how is that possible? And then I realized it fell into place from my understanding of quantum physics, which, yes, by popular demand, I will be doing a mini course on quantum physics and the law of attraction sometime next month, and I'll let you guys know when that is. But here's what I want you to understand just now. You know how scientists don't know everything. They just know more than the common average person, but they don't know everything. Here's the thing, they're still catching up. Every time there's a discovery, scientists are discovering something that source already knew. It's new to them, but not new to the universe, not new to source. Okay? So you might have heard it said, and if you haven't, then I am telling you today, that scientists say that energy only changes form, it does not go away. And there is a finite amount of matter in the world, and that matter gets converted into energy and then back into matter. So matter changes form. Matter becomes E is equal to mc squared. That's what it is all about. Matter. So Einstein's equation is all about matter becoming energy and energy becoming matter. If you burn wood, it turns into coal. It doesn't go away. Part of it becomes fumes, part of it becomes coal. It does not go away. And so they believe that the resources of the earth are finite. That's why they have this lack attitude towards petroleum running out and different things running out. They have this they think it's finite. You cannot create more resources. And Abraham says, well, are you trucking it in from other planets? Like, how is it happening? It's happening because when you understand this one little thing, that thoughts are energy. Thoughts are energy. A thought is a waveform. It is, so now they do have gadgets that measure your brain waves. Thought is energy. Okay? But thought is not energy changing form. There was no matter that became the energy that is our thought. Thought is new energy. Thought is new energy. It did not exist before. But now that it exists, it can convert into matter. Ah, mine is right here. Mine is right here on my couch, Heather. You have 3? Did you say you have 3? No. Okay. I can't hear you. That's okay. You're on mute. We'll talk later.
I was saying I love it. No, one,
me too. Me too. Well, no, I have a dog and 2 cats. So one is not enough.
I love it.
I do too. So here's the thing. Thought is new energy. It did not exist in this world before. We are thinking, and in the process of thinking, we are generating energy. And that energy, so Abraham's words, that energy collects, and there are rivers of thought, my emotional scale pen. At every level of the emotional scale, thoughts band together and become rivers of thought. Rivers of thought. These rivers of thought, as they become more and more, bigger and bigger and bigger, they become thought forms. Thought forms. And if they keep becoming bigger and bigger and bigger, eventually they manifest. This is how all of us, you, me, everyone, have manifested the cell phone, because we loved Star Trek so much. So many people focused on it in so many different ways. We manifested it. We should all have a share of the profits. We manifested, and we do. We enjoy cell phones every day in our life, so we have a share in the profits. But this is how thoughts become things. Thoughts become things for the world. Thoughts become things for countries and communities, and thoughts become things for us at a personal level. This is why the more energy you give to something, it will manifest, because you are literally creating it. You're not taking it from someone else. It's your thought energy. that is creating it. And I've explained this before. Some of you who are part of my Heart and Mind Alignment program, you will have heard of me explain it in this way. It's like, imagine that there is a 3D printer, and the ink in that printer, the material in that printer which is going to create the thing that you want to create, is your thought energy. You're filling the cartridge of that 3D printer with your thought energy. So as long as you keep fueling the cartridge, it will print the completed item and give it to you. You'll have it. This is how our thoughts become things. If we stop filling the cartridge with the material that it needs in order to complete the process of creation, then you'll have a half-baked 3D item. My daughter prints dice with 3D printers. Because she's a dungeon master, whatever. Whatever. She likes making her own dice and she uses the 3D printer, so I see how it works. If it doesn't have the stuff in it, it's not going to print. If we don't have thoughts, it's not going to print, because our thoughts are literally the energy that turn into that thing. And that's why we don't take from anyone else, because no one else can create my thing. It's my energy that's going to create for me. And their energy is they have their own 3D printer. I have mine. They can't use mine. I can't use theirs. Mine uses my thought energy. Theirs uses theirs. We can't take from anyone. Therefore, we never have to be jealous of anyone. And there never has to be any lack of abundance, because we can always think more thoughts of abundance. And our thoughts are the thing that are fueling our abundance. So simple, right? But we forgot it. We forgot it. And that's what Abraham is talking about here in the next few pages. All right. So, if I go too far off on tangent, feel free to reel me back, because I can just keep going. All right. But I kind of feel that that's where the fun is, of taking the material and taking it further, further in our understanding. All right, at least I have fun that way. Every other relationship you have, that is with other people, with animals, with your own body, with money, with concepts and ideas, with life itself, is profoundly affected by this all-important relationship between you and you. Because nothing will work the way we want it to work unless the red and the blue are aligned. That's what alignment is. And I call it heart and mind alignment, because the red is the mind part and the blue is the heart part, is the soul part. They both have to be lined up. That's why I call it heart and mind alignment. Right? Okay, so your relationship with your parents, very important. You know what? So many of us either blame our parents for stuff, or we feel guilty about having done things that we think were inappropriate. There's so much guilt and blame associated with that relationship. There's love associated with it as well. But even as little children, you feel guilty because you broke something that mom liked, or you lost something that they worked so hard to get for you. So we have these emotions associated with that relationship. And reading this will really help you sort all of that out. The most important thing that Abraham says on page 14, further down from the middle of the page, is, "But you did not intend to look to them to determine your life's purpose for you, or for guidance about the correctness or effectiveness of your physical journey. In fact, from your non-physical perspective before your birth, you knew that your personal guidance would be more intact and therefore more effective on the day that you were born than would be the guidance of adults who would greet you." We did not need we have never needed our parents to provide us with guidance. Never. We already had guidance inside us. But a very important thing to understand about guidance is that blue line the source part of us, always comes from a point of view of love. And so when we are rude to someone or unkind to someone, we are deviating. That is not part of our guidance. And this is why Abraham says that no one who is high on the emotional scale will ever do anything to hurt anyone else. Anyone who does anything to hurt someone else, to hurt humanity, is not high on the emotional scale. And because they are not high on the emotional scale, that is the precise reason why we need to put our arms around them. Because the only reason anyone goes that far down the emotional scale that they start hurting other people is because they can't find love. And they are desperate for it. All right. Important point, second paragraph on page 15. Abraham says, when your mother held you and worried about you, you felt uncomfortable. The paragraph starts with the words, since you came from an environment where you had absolute knowledge of the well-being of the universe and of the planet Earth, and all that is, when your mother held you and worried about you, you felt uncomfortable. When your parents felt overwhelmed with their own lives, you felt uncomfortable. When they gazed at you in pure love and appreciation, you felt the alignment of their beings and you felt comfort. But even in your infancy, you remembered that it was not their job to shine their alignment on you. You remembered even then, even before you could talk or walk, that it was not their job to provide a haven of comfort and aligned energy for you. You knew it was your job, and you knew you would figure it out. And meanwhile, you were able to easily withdraw back into the alignment of your oneness, and so you slept often. You know, I have to confess, this book, The Vortex, is the one book of Abraham's that I feel I need to underline every word. You know, like most other books, I have like some portions highlighted and underlined. And in this book, it's like, oh my God, I just won't then, because I feel like I should underline everything. Because the words are like gems. They are so beautiful and they make so much sense, right? I don't know if you feel like that, but I sure feel like that. Okay, so that leads us to why is Subha Khwaja calling me? She wants to get in on the event and cannot find the link. Jennifer, if you know Subha, she's part of the Unicorn Club. Do you want to reach out to her? Can you reach out to her for me, please?
I don't know who she is. How do you spell her name?
S-U-B-A-H, I think. She's calling me on S-U-B-A-H, Khwaja, K-H-A-W-A-J-A. She's part of the Unicorn Club. Okay. All right. I am going to get back here. Thank you, Jennifer, for helping. So appreciate that you're here today. Okay. So for people who don't know, Jennifer is part of Team Unlimited, and she is always helping me out. And Tess is also a newly inducted part of Team Unlimited. All right. Where was I? Here we go. You came into this physical environment knowing that you would be surrounded by contrast. So why did we come knowing that we would be surrounded by contrast? Well, we came because we wanted to contribute to the expansion of the universe. Contrast is what makes us think, generate new energy, which leads to the creation of more matter, which then results in the creation of the expansion of the universe. Because energy and matter are what the universe is consisting of. That is the universe, energy and matter. So the more we think, whether we think positive thoughts or negative thoughts, the more the universe expands. That's why we are here. That's how we contribute to the growth and expansion and well-being of the universe, just by the fact that we think. Okay? So it's like, we procreate having babies. The universe procreates through the generation of thought energy. Okay? The universe procreates by the generation of thought energy. That is what why we are here. We are here creating more energy. All right. Right at the bottom of page 15, flawed premise number 2, my parents, because they were here long before I was born, and because they are my parents, know better than I do what is right or wrong for me. That is a false premise. It is not true. And the next paragraph on page 16 explains that you did not intend to use the opinions of your parents, or anyone else for that matter, to measure against your beliefs, desires, or actions in order to determine the appropriateness of them. You knew that you would be able to tell how far you have drifted from your inner being because of emotion. You knew that, and you knew that you could think your way back. You can think and feel your way back to alignment. Think and feel your way back to alignment. All right. Much of the imbalance that people feel long after they leave the immediate environment of their childhood home stems from the impossible effort of replacing their own guidance system by seeking approval from their parents. And this is a really important point, and I often say this to people, is that one of the things that happens to almost all of us is that when we live with our parents, we have someone outside of us telling us that it's going to be all right. But when we leave our parents' umbrella, we forget to tell ourselves that very important thing. Everything's going to be all right. And so we don't need our parents to tell us that, because we can tell ourselves that. Okay, let's keep going. Your relationship, okay, last line before the next heading. I've got it highlighted, so I think I'll read it out to you. Unless you have achieved alignment between you and you, no other relationship can be a good one. Yeah. Unless you have achieved alignment between you and you, no other relationship can be a good one. Alignment is the key. And this is why you'll hear Abraham, when people come to Abraham and talk about finding love and finding their soulmate or finding a relationship, Abraham always recommends go up the emotional scale before you get into a relationship, because that's the type of relationship that will really bring you the joy that you want. Okay, so the next heading is your relationship with your siblings. And the key here, the point that Abraham makes, is the more people are involved, the more possibility that personal misalignment will occur. It doesn't always have to be the case, but in general, Abraham says that that's how it works with humanity. The more people are involved, then it just makes sense, right? Because the more people are involved, now there are so many more that you're trying to please, or there are so many more who have their own opinions that they are sharing, and you're trying to figure out all of them. So the chances for misalignment can be more. Often the family dynamics are as follows. Your mother and father have not been consciously aware of their own guidance. That's why they are upset. If they are upset, if they have temper tantrums, it's because they're not aligned. And so they do not offer to themselves or to each other consistent patterns of alignment. They often believe that it is up to you to alter your behavior in order to positively affect their experience. How many times have your parents said, I told you so, or do as I say because I know better? I'm your mother, therefore you should do what I tell you to do for no other reason. Everybody's had that, right? From your mother or your father, everyone has. It wasn't until much later that my mother said, okay, let's talk about it. Right? It was her way or the highway, even, like for all of us. She was the queen. Okay. And we knew not to anger the queen, right? So we just did what she said. Okay. I seem to remember Alice in Wonderland's words, off with their heads. You know, that's literally how we felt. Okay. So Abraham says, conditional love is, I am giving you responsibility for the way I feel. On page 17, it is the last line of the first paragraph. If you will change your behavior or condition, then, as I observe it, I will feel better. So I am giving you the responsibility for the way I feel. You are responsible for the way I feel. And you know, a lot of children are very conscious of the way their parents feel. Right? And we didn't need to take responsibility. And so, you know, those kids that are so-called outliers in the sense that they misbehave, well, those kids are actually being true to their own guidance system. They're basically saying, I don't want to listen to you. I'll listen to myself. I'm going to please myself. Yes, Yolanda? Yolanda's over on Facebook, and there's a couple of other people on Facebook as well. Guys, I have posted the link. So if you want to join us on Zoom, you can. All right, let's keep going. When the second child enters the mix, not only is there now more behavior for your parents to attempt to control, but an even more confusing thing occurs for you. Now, not only are you considering your own behavior in relationship to your parents' response to what you're doing, but you're observing the way your parents are responding to the behavior of the other child. The potential for distortion and confusion exponentially expands with each new person who enters the mix. How many people here have siblings? Yeah, me too. Hated him. Wanted to kill him. And you have 5. So you have 5 times the problems I had. Oh my God, 6. There you go, 6, 2. Yeah, so many problems, right? Oh my God. Yes. And why should I be responsible for him just because I'm older? I don't want responsibility for him. I don't want to make sure he's eaten his food and done stuff when you're away. It's not my problem. If he wants to go hungry, let him. That's how I feel, or used to feel. And then if I forgot, I was the bad one. Even though he could go and open the fridge just as well as I could. Right? Yeah, I know all about that. I know all about having siblings. All right. So trying to achieve your proper personal behavior is not possible through trying to adjust to the desires and demands of the people you live with. You see what I mean? Each sentence of this book is important. It's like I feel I have to read the whole thing to you. I know you can read it yourself, but there is simply too much variety. Too much variety. There's so much contrast because everybody's doing something different and parents are reacting and we're observing them react towards each other, react to our siblings, react to people outside the family. And the child is absorbing all of that. Right? And that, how we think about that, the perspective that we adopt is what determines what happens in our lives. And that is why 2 children, one in the same family, can have completely different lives. Because by the age of 3, a child has already learned their perspective. And the easiest way to look at perspective is glass half full and glass half empty. Very simple. 2 sides of the coin. Glass half full, glass half empty. By the age of 3, a child has already picked one and will look at everything that way. And this is something that Abraham has talked about as well, is that by the time a child gets to age 3, they've already decided their perspective. in life. And by the time they are 6, I forget now what Abraham said, they have already started accumulating beliefs. So those subconscious beliefs already start happening. So a child, even by the age of 3, has already decided, I get what I want or I don't get what I want. Just from having food and shelter and clothing. I get what I want and toys and things like that. I get what I want or I don't get what I want. And how am I going to feel about it, more importantly? Because they don't have to get what they want, but they do have to learn how to feel about it. And so they have already decided how they are going to respond in terms of feeling. A perspective of lack or a perspective of having. So what I mean is, for example, a child wants a toy, the parents don't get the toy, now the child has a choice. The child can say, all right, that's fine. Next time, better luck next time. I'll just play with this empty box for now, right? But another child can have the reaction that says, you don't love me, that's why you didn't buy it for me. I'm not loved. You don't care enough about me. So that perspective of letting other people control your emotional state is already developed by the age of 3. A child that is 3 years old has already started thinking in those terms. So this is why, and this is where psychology tries to go backwards to fix that. But Abraham says you don't need to go backwards to fix that. Just start from where you are and go forward. You don't have to go backwards and fix that. Because a lot of times you don't even know what to fix because it's so far back. You don't have clear memory of it. And a lot of times your memories are not factual. They are your perspective of whatever happened. Right? Why go back? Because that's way too much work. That's a lot more work than just deciding who you are going to be and what your new belief system is going to be and just go forward. Going forward is way easier than going backwards and then coming forwards. It's the analogy that Abraham used of Jerry and Esther driving in the monster bus. And the first time that Esther used Garmin, the GPS system, and they tell the story of how Jerry said to her, I think you're going the wrong way. And she said, but I followed Garmin. I followed exactly what Garmin told me to do. And he said, but no, I know that you're going the wrong way. Let's turn around. So at that point, Esther said, well, let's go back and retrace our steps. Let's go back to the start of our journey and retrace our steps so we can figure out where we went wrong. And Jerry said, or we could just keep going. We don't need to go back. And those were his exact words. Or we could just keep going. Well, just keep going. There's no need to go backwards and then come back. You don't need to figure out where you took a wrong turn. Just start from where you are and go forward. So even though a lot of this, when we read this, it helps us to understand our journey a lot better. And it does help to resolve those things that we are still carrying on our hearts. Once we understand this stuff, a lot of that just falls off. It just dissolves on its own without needing any work. Because we understand why things happen the way they did. And if you need help understanding, you can message me. All right. Trying to achieve your proper personal behavior is not possible through trying to adjust to the desires and demands of the people you live with. I'm still on page 17. It is the last paragraph before the next heading. There is simply too much variety in personality, interest, intention, and life purpose. So all we have to do is seek alignment. Seek alignment between you and you first before you engage with any other, and never ask for a behavioral change from any other to use as your basis of improved emotion or perspective. There are simply too many moving parts and you will not succeed. And this is why we can never change anyone else's behavior. Mercedes, did you have a question?
Yes, please.
Go ahead.
So, besides appreciation and meditation, can you suggest any other options to align or to foster my relationship between me and me?
Sure. And core beliefs.
And one more, how to teach kids to align themselves.
Don't.
Oh, good.
Don't interfere with the kids. Let them figure it out. That's an easy one.
Okay.
The less we tell them what to do and the more we trust. So here's the thing. As you let them be on their own and you don't interfere in their experience, you have to trust that guidance is available to them and they will find it. You cannot worry about them and then not provide any guidance. Okay? So worry, if you are worrying about them, that means that you have a negative belief. So don't,
No.
Yeah. So as long as you're trusting that they have guidance and they'll figure it out, they have the capacity to figure out whatever they need to figure out, they're going to be fine. They don't need interference from you. Because the best way you can teach a child is by you observing the rules of law of attraction. And then they'll learn from you to do the same. Go ahead, Andrew.
You answered differently to them. It's a whole other world when you're doing this, the way you interact with them.
That's true.
So
your responses will be... That's right. And they will learn from that. Andrew, you had a question?
And they look at you like, oh, I mean, before they would like want to go against or question what you're saying, but it's very different. Okay, so how do I foster my relationship with me and me?
I'm going to come back to it because I think Andrew has wants to say something. No, that's okay. I'm coming back to you. Andrew, go ahead.
No, that's fine. I was just going to say, Abraham often says that children are here to teach us how to be more in alignment, the adults.
Yes, because they are more connected with Source. They are more connected with Source than we are. Because, you see, over a period of however many years, 20, 30, 40, whatever years, however old you are, you've had that much more time to collect negative beliefs. A 5-year-old, a 6-year-old has not collected as many negative beliefs. So in proportion, it is easier for them to return to alignment than it is for us. All right, so coming back to your really, really important question, Mercedes, it is so easy to maintain your alignment and go forward instead of going backwards when you have a set of core beliefs. Okay, and that's what I teach you in the Unlimited workbook, right? These are our core beliefs, right? And so if your core belief is all things are possible, and then you think a thought that says, how is this going to happen? At that moment, you have a choice. Either you discard the belief or you discard the thought. So you have to start saying to yourself, not discarding the belief, going to hold on to the belief. That means I have to trust. I have to trust that what I want can happen. Go ahead, Heather.
Which book was that?
Oh, that's the Unlimited workbook. The Unlimited 40-day Law of Attraction workbook.
Okay, thank you.
That's like a Bible.
Okay, thank you.
Get it.
Yeah.
Your life is going to change.
I'm right there. I would like that now.
Order it.
I'm doing it.
So all you need, and out of the 40 affirmations in this book, the 40 affirmations will help you reprogram your subconscious mind. But all you need is your core beliefs cannot be 100 core beliefs, or, it's too hard to keep track of 100 things. You can't do that. 40 is too many.
Make a list.
Yeah, make a list, and what I suggest is maximum 7. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, that's it, no more than 7. Because 7 is easy to remember, right? So my core beliefs are things like, they're all Abraham's words, mostly. Some of them are my own now, but mostly they're all Abraham's words. A castle is as easy to create as a button. Things are always working out for me. I can have, be, or do anything I want. All things are possible. And my own beautiful one is, I care, but not that much.
Not that much.
I care, absolutely. I care, but not that much. Not that much. Not going to compromise my alignment. I care, but not that much. I got my t-shirt with my core belief on it. I care, but not that much. I haven't tried it on yet. I care, but not that much.
I say that all the time.
Exactly. I care, but not that much. Not that much. Things are always working out for me. The future can be better than the past. That's it. Those are my core beliefs. Because the future can always be better. I don't care how good I'm living just now. The future can always be better than the past. So these are reminders. As life is happening to myself and other people, I remind myself of my core beliefs. And
the more you repeat them, the more you place them in your other you.
Absolutely. And then
it becomes a reality.
That's how you change your life. That's how you can go forward. I don't need to go backward and fix things. I just need to have a code. The unicorn code. This is the code I live by. Right? The unicorn code. This is the code. I'm a magical creature. I'm a unicorn. This is my code. That's it. And those are your core beliefs.
Can I ask one quick question?
Sure.
What is, this may be so simple, but why does he say or refer to the earth where we are, leading edge, contrast field, time, space, reality? But why leading edge?
Because the expansion of the universe is taking place because of what is happening here. Because we are generating thought energy. So we are the leading edge. So here is the center of, let's say, a storm. Just as an example, because I can't think of another one just now. So this is the center of the storm. The further out you are from the center of the storm, that's where the storm is heading, right? It's heading towards, it's expanding from here and heading outwards. It's expanding, right? So in the same way, the universe is expanding because of the thoughts we are thinking. We are pushing the edge of the universe outwards. So if you look at a galaxy. If you see a picture of a galaxy, it's got this strong center and then it's spread out. That spreading out literally is happening because of our thoughts. That's why we are on the leading edge. Because, like I said, we are the generators of new thought energy, which can then turn to matter. Where did the planets come from? They were thought. Abraham says about the beginning of the universe. At first there was a thought, and then the thought became the thinker. And from there, the planets were created. This is what Abraham says about the creation of the universe. At first there was a thought, then the thought became a thinker.
Very nice. Thank you.
Beautiful words. So that's why we are at the leading edge of the universe, because we are thinking and we are therefore manufacturing more matter, more energy. Okay? And contrast is what helps us to manufacture more energy. Contrast leads us to think. Okay? Awesome. Really, really good questions. Awesome. Love you guys. We are at the end of our time commitment. And so I am going to close here. We are closing on page 17. And when we resume, our next heading is our vortex and the law of attraction. So we generally depending on how many questions there are and the material, we generally cover about 10 or 15 pages in a session, right? So 2022 is going to be all about this book. All right. Love you all lots. Have fun.
Thank
Enjoy
you.
your day.
Thank you.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you so much.
All right. See you guys later next week. Bye for now.
Bye.
Recording.
All right, Tamika. Love it. So glad you were there. Yolanda, Navera, thank you for attending and see you all next week. Bye for now.